the Office of Economic Opportunity, we're responsible for staffing and administering the State Workforce Council. So that's the governor's workforce board that covers the entire state and kind of pursues a lot of those workforce initiatives. And that's made up of industry partners and partners here at the state as well as some of the other economic development agencies. Like we have DES in there, Commerce Authority as well. And so it is kind of a more coordinated effort, kind of trying to lead a lot of that workforce development across the agencies. And with some of the new initiatives from the governor, like Talent Ready AZ, we're further strengthening a lot of that workforce development. So it's kind of more of a coordinated front across agencies, I'd say.
Welcome to the Native Edge. I'm Chris James, and I'm with my co-host. Did you hear me? I can't even say I'm with my co-host today.
Yeah.
What's going on with me?
I don't know.
Well,
it's the cool weather.
It is. We were talking about that. Who's
Yvette,
my co-host?
Yvette Fielder.
What a great co-host you are, Yvette.
Thanks,
Chris. It's so fun. I'm glad we're able to do this. I was looking at all of our episodes that we've done. I think we're well over 30.
Are we? Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Wow. We're rock stars.
We are rock stars, and we are getting a lot of popularity all over the world. People are downloading our podcast.
How
and
fun.
We're not getting as many questions as I would like or comments. So all of our viewers and listeners, feel free to ask us some questions. We like questions.
And stump us.
Stump us.
Yeah.
Yes.
We want like a riddle even that we have to figure out.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a tough one, a riddle.
Have you been to those like rooms? You have to get out of that room.
Oh, those escape rooms?
Escape rooms.
Sometimes I feel like we're in an escape room right now.
Right, we are. We should do that for a staff retreat, like team building.
Team building. Put everybody into the studio and lock the door and see how if you can escape.
Like when you were a kid and you did the sheets.
Yeah, you have to
turn
pick
out
up
the lights
everything.
And you had to crawl through. And
It's so this particular room was a storage room when I first started here.
There was a refrigerator right here.
It was, and you would hear knocks in back here. I remember hearing. I think it was probably the original, like moving around, jumping around.
They can get loud.
They can, but I just assumed it was ghosts as well.
Yeah, or they hiss.
Yeah,
like
or
have you noticed when you go on work travel or something, and the little
all the
refrigerator's
noises.
like, it's just going along, and you're like, what is that noise?
And
you have to track it down.
I've been also I've been having trouble with the new features on the iPhone. Have you learned those? Have you been playing around with the new upgrade? All right.
Mm-hmm.
It's.
I don't like. It's like I have to figure this out. Go to one of the kids and like, what do I do here? And they're like,
we have to text. I'm just texting. They've switched things around. So
have they? Uh-oh.
Yes. All the time.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Those are some really complex issues I'm dealing with today.
Are we going to get some Chris James text messages? Now we are. Your phone's listening.
Yes,
so
that's right. Yes, you're totally. Everybody's going to be text. So tell me about Maine.
Maine was so fun. It was a Native Edge Institute in Bar Harbor, Maine.
Bar Harbor,
Your
Maine.
recommendation.
My recommendation, yes. Maine is one of our. It's a target market for our Key Bank initiative. Mm-hmm. So working with our communities in Maine is a huge initiative with the Key Bank. I think we have some 10 or 12 states that we're targeting on, and Maine is one of those.
It is, and it's a nice little cottage town. Rural, family-oriented feel, but very touristy as well. Of course, you have to have the lobster Maine when you go to Maine. And just a really neat town with a lot of agriculture opportunities, I think, for small businesses. And it seemed like everybody knew everybody, had a Mayberry feel to it, kind of.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was really nice. And we had a great turnout with our audience. We made a connection with one of the tribes there who wants to work with one of the participants.
Good.
More to be revealed later, I guess, with a success story. So it was a really great
But it's around farming, though.
We had our agricultural focus.
Yes.
And, we took a little drive on our way back to the airport, and there's a national park right there, and of course the Bar Harbor and the main harbor, and then it goes out to the Atlantic Ocean, and really pretty and peaceful, and see the boats, and the harbors right there with the water, and the cute little town, and all the little touristy shops and breakfast places and coffee shops, and it was really nice, really quaint.
And there's 4 federally recognized tribes in Maine?
There were 4, yes. And Pasquatomie, Pequot, Micmac, and I'm forgetting the last one. Oh my gosh, they're going to be upset with me. But it was.
We'll put it in
really
the comments.
We will. We'll list them.
We'll
list them.
Well, great. Well, good work there. And then you were also in Portland.
We were in Portland, Oregon, the previous
Portland, Oregon,
week.
not Portland, Maine.
There is a Portland, Maine, because we kept saying Portland.
That's right,
we're like,
Portland.
oh yeah, it's so close.
Yeah, it's just down the road.
Like, oh no,
we were
in
on
Oregon.
the other side of the country. Yes,
literally the other side of the country.
Right.
Speakers, really great time with the speakers, and really interactive group.
Yeah. Amber from AT&I. Her and I have known each other for a very long time. She's amazing. The AT&I conference is coming up, and looking forward to being up there and talking with those tribes.
Yeah.
But that's not why we're here
That's
today.
not why we're here.
Yeah, we have a great guest. I'm going to let Sebastian just introduce himself, because he's going to be able to tell us more of what he does. But Sebastian, welcome to the Native Edge. Tell us, just introduce yourself however you want, and then tell us your title, and then we'll get into the questions.
Yeah, of course. Sebastian Aleman. I'm the Legislative and Tribal Liaison for the Arizona Office of Economic Opportunity. So one of the state's leading workforce agencies. We do a lot of workforce development initiatives and programming. So I kind of help out on the legislative side of things, but also connecting all of that programming to our tribal communities throughout the state too. So
That's pretty awesome. So how long have you been doing the job?
I've been with the office for about 2 years now, and the office is pretty new. It's about maybe 3 years old now as well. As an independent cabinet agency, it used to exist under the Commerce Authority, but we're kind of operating as that new independent agency, kind of leading a lot of workforce initiatives. So,
and tell us about you grew up in Arizona, and did I read that you went to Arizona State?
Yeah. I went to,
good. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
No. Went to ASU. Currently still at ASU. Pursuing my undergraduate in public policy and economics as well.
Okay.
Going to ASU. Kind of lived in Arizona my whole life. I was born in Texas, but kind of moved here when I was 4 years old. So pretty much raised and born here.
Yeah, that counts.
It does count. And I went to Gilbert Classical Academy, just a small prep school. So kind of spent a better part of my whole life here in Gilbert, Arizona.
Yeah. So I also live in Gilbert, so we're not quite neighbors. Yvette lives down the road there.
I live out toward Queen Creek in the Santan Valley area, but grew up in the valley. Family moved here from the Dakotas when I was very young, like 2. That we would go there every summer, so really connected. So it sounds like the department, have they kind of all combined? I know there's GPEC, Greater Phoenix Economic Council. Yeah. Then there was Arizona Commerce Authority, and then there was Maricopa County Workforce, and then they rebranded under Arizona at Work. Yeah. And so have they rebranded again? And is that kind of now you guys are all together?
Not necessarily in a way of rebranding. It's still kind of the Arizona at Work system. So the Office of Economic Opportunity, we're responsible for staffing and administering the State Workforce Council. So that's the governor's workforce board that covers the entire state and kind of pursues a lot of those workforce initiatives. And that's made up of industry partners and partners here at the state as well as some of the other economic development agencies. Like we have DES in there, Commerce Authority as well. And so it is kind of a more coordinated effort, kind of trying to lead a lot of that workforce development across the agencies, and with some of the new initiatives from the governor, like Talent Ready AZ, we're further strengthening a lot of that workforce development. So it's kind of more of a coordinated front across agencies, I'd say.
And tell us about how many clients. Tell us the process about. So your office is advising, you have a council that's advising the governor. how does it trickle down to help everyday Arizonians?
Yeah, of course. A lot of the decisions that are made at the Workforce Council it's all industry led. So a lot of what we're doing in terms of workforce planning and workforce coordinating is in coordination with a lot of the partners who have something at stake. So that's our businesses and small businesses. They kind of, our industry partners have kind of a finger on the pulse, if I could say, of kind of what's in demand for our state. So kind of making decisions in that vein of like, all right, here's where we really need to, invest more in construction or trades apprenticeships and that kind of, or advanced manufacturing skills and advanced manufacturing skills. Kind of making those decisions help trickle down to, people who can really benefit from getting credentials in these types of programming that then open the door to career pathways down the road.
And when you talk about the credentials, this is so fascinating for me because a lot of what I believe when we, when you're thinking about, and I have kids, 3 kids, they just, 2 of them just graduated high school and now are in various colleges. But sometimes the pathway isn't so clear when you're in high school. Maybe you don't really want to do the traditional route. Maybe you don't really want to go to a 4-year college. What type of pathways are you guys helping provide when people just want to maybe enter into the workforce? How would someone get involved, or how would someone, go to a community? Tell us that process too.
Yeah, of course. I think there's a lot of avenues there is kind of the really important part, is creating a lot of opportunities in as many places as you can. Because, not everybody wants to go to like a 4-year university, like you said. So what can we do to then promote this type of programming at other, educational institutions with other, groups like our labor and union trades groups, and our community colleges as well. Our community colleges have been incredible partners in workforce development because they've been able to take up a lot of different types of programming. One of those is our advanced, our Ready Tech Go program, which provides a lot of advanced manufacturing kind of programming, and that's in complete partnership with our community colleges. I think we have 6 participating community colleges, and Maricopa County is one of them, and it provides just a lot of programming in automotive industry, I think solar, there's semiconductor manufacturing. So it's a lot of these advanced skills, and it's providing opportunity where the 4-year degree or even a traditional college education isn't going to be something that a person wants to pursue. So really opening up those opportunities at all levels is kind of what we've been trying to pursue too.
And it's not always young people too, because I was just thinking as you were talking, I'm like, oh, maybe someone's looking at a second career, or maybe maybe they've been raising their kids and they're like, okay, I'm ready to enter back into the workforce or enter into the workforce. So I'm assuming multiple pathways depending on anywhere a person is in life.
Yeah, and I think that further kind of strengthens the argument that we need these opportunities as many places as we can see them. Just because one of the biggest things we've seen probably since the pandemic too is people want to re-career, they want to reskill, they want to learn a new trade, a new profession, and do something new, and that's totally fine, and that's an incredible thing to want, especially if you're trying to find opportunity in an industry that's now in demand, and you're like, okay, I really want to get into that. Apprenticeships or credentialing, all that kind of stuff is there at your hands to be able to do that at a fairly cheaper price and a more reasonable timeline and that kind of stuff too.
And there's probably some of these resources are no cost. Is that, I'm assuming, or is there always going to be a cost?
It might just depend from what you're going to pursue. Yeah. I know a lot of our apprenticeship programs, or I say our apprenticeship programs, our partners that we partner up with, and we help build these registered apprenticeship programs with them. A lot of them will take funds to try to do a lot of different things with it, and they'll try to be creative of, we'll pay for your equipment in one way, we'll pay for tuition in another, or we'll do something differently and try to help our students. And that's kind of the feeling too, is like they really want to help their students in some way. So there's a lot more opportunity for, cheap tuition, free tuition, that kind of stuff as well.
And now, Yvette, you did a lot of this workforce
I
development.
did. I worked for Maricopa County Workforce. I was a business account coordinator, so I used to work with all the businesses who were looking for new staff. So we work closely with the apprenticeship programs for onboarding, new skill sets. And closely with the community colleges, as well as then state of Arizona had another program, and that's when they rebranded and became Arizona at Work. Even though they still have staff at Maricopa County, I understand, but it's all under one bigger brand of Arizona at Work. And I know the goals also with each city government was all about attraction and retention with the economic development departments, to get new businesses to invest in Arizona. So as an example, we had one company that came in from, I remember the story. There was a couple actually. Vanguard was one that came eventually to Scottsdale area, North Scottsdale area. A lot of different small companies. There was one company, we would joke around that, well, they had a cereal bar at this company. I'm trying to remember the name of it, and it was in Chandler in the middle.
Cereal to eat.
To eat cereal, because the two owners originally had this idea to come together to build this business, and all they could afford was cereal when they were going through college. And so, as they came through the ranks when they started their company, they eventually, are renting or purchased this building in Chandler, and it was owned by another company, and they had a huge football field in the middle. So they would have their team meetings in the middle of this football field, and they had all the office space, and it was IT.
That's pretty awesome.
Work that they did there. But another company that came to Arizona, for example, they were tired of all of the rain and the hurricanes and storms on the East Coast, so they were looking to come to the West. And so that's where they reached out to, the Greater Economic Council and Arizona Commerce Authority and the governor's office to find placement in Arizona, what would be appropriate for them, large corporation. So then the economic development departments in each city will come together at the table, and they pitch what their city has to offer, whether it's a tax, cut or something, or an incentive. And it usually would boil down to Scottsdale and Tempe. They're kind of fighting around the then new Tempe Town Lake back then. I don't even know if the Tempe Town Lake, I guess it was in existence then, but growing up in the valley, it wasn't at one time.
There too.
And so it was either side. So on one side it's Scottsdale, and the other side is Tempe. But the attraction, that's what it was all about, because if they went to Silicon Valley in California, totally different landscape and very expensive. And they were companies are trying to get away from that. So they're looking for more affordable landscape to have their office and then hire and have that healthy workforce.
And so that brings up a good point. How is your office or the group that you're working with, how are you attracting more commerce into Arizona? Specifically, you and I we all live in the East Valley. We want to see more investments into the East Valley. And then I do want us to talk about how do we help, or how can your office support with that same development in our tribal communities? I know that's a whole lot in one question. But let's start with attracting folks into Arizona. Talk about that process. How do you work with companies? What incentives are offered?
Yeah, of course. I think when it comes to workforce development, because that's really what we focus in on, is how can we help the businesses that are here, or the economic development that has already taken place and is still growing in Arizona. How can we help that be sustainable and continue to grow, and continue to attract businesses here in a way that's going to be supportive of them? So it all comes down to really, how are we training our workforce? Where are we seeing gaps in our workforce that we can fill in? And that's kind of where we come in with these are the industries that are in demand. We see a lot of advanced manufacturing moving here, and we see a lot of electric vehicle manufacturers moving here. I think Lucid just built something down in Casa Grande, I think. And so we see all of this investment here in Arizona. And one of our questions is okay, if we're having all of this attraction for economic development, and all these companies want to build here, how are we going to, build a workforce that is capable of, taking on all of this economic growth? How are we going to train people who right now are in industries they don't want to be in, or they want to reskill, or are wanting to get industries that they can't get into yet? How can we make the opportunity there for them to be pushed into these industries, and then, support these businesses as well?
So, I mean, and this is something I haven't really spent a lot of time focusing on, but it's very fascinating because you need the workforce before you can get the company there at times.
Yeah.
I guess that's what you're saying. You're like,
Yeah.
so one of your incentives to bring a company, if it's manufacturing, if it's electric vehicles, if it's semiconductors, is to be like, we're already working. We already have the workforce here, and they're ready. As soon as that plant opens, they're ready to start working. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, and in the same vein, it's kind of that incentive for companies to move here is that, okay, they have a functioning workforce, they have a workforce that's growing and that's being invested in. Is the biggest key is being invested in. And as these companies move here, there's more opportunity then to continue partnering with them to build even more rigid, more robust, programming that can help, create, more opportunity to credentials, more opportunity to like attaining just higher career opportunities is really key there. So, and attracting that investment is really big.
A lot of
it affects everything.
Oh, it does.
Like where are we going to live? Where are our children going to school? How long is it going to take me to commute there? What are the roads? What's the infrastructure? What's the water? So it's like all kinds of issues that come together at the table.
Workforce is everything. That's so I know a lot of the focus that we've been talking about, it seems to be centered around the Valley, but you work statewide. Is that correct? So tell us about some of your initiatives in reaching maybe some of the more remote communities, reaching some of our rural communities. How are we, instead of the full laser focus on being in the Valley, how do we spread that out throughout Arizona?
Yeah, of course. And I think that's a bigger question for a lot of state government is, how is what you're doing impacting, people outside of Maricopa County?
Yeah.
That's always the big question. And we try to do a lot of that. And I think we've been pretty successful at it with some of our programming. We've been talking a lot about like the Workforce Council as it relates to the Office of Economic Opportunity. And that's just one of our statutory kind of obligations. We have another agency, or I guess two sub-agencies, you'd almost call them. They're finance authorities under the OEO. So there's the Arizona Finance Authority, and then there's a Greater Arizona Development Authority. The Greater Arizona Development Authority is a really interesting entity because it allows rural and tribal communities to have access to public infrastructure financing. And that's a really big thing for a lot of our tribal communities who want to invest in water treatment facilities, water infrastructure. We've seen a lot that want to do around community centers and youth programming centers, which is really key to a lot of our workforce stuff. This is where a lot of youth programming can happen, where
all
we
the
can
soft skills can
all
be
the soft
learned
skills can be learned there. Yeah, of course. So a development authority like this that really specializes in just focusing on the rural and tribal infrastructure in Arizona is super important because it kind of takes that focus out of Maricopa County, and it puts it where communities need a lot of help in terms of just aligning state resources with their local needs, and that's a lot of what we're trying to do is really aligning our state resources here at the agency with the needs of our tribal communities and the infrastructure needs of our tribal communities. So that's one of the programs that we're really pursuing, or we're really pushing and trying to make some really key investments there, and we're getting closer. Historically, Greater Arizona Development Authority hasn't had a tribal infrastructure project, and it's been around since I don't want to say when. I mean, I don't really know how long ago it was started, but it was dormant since 2014. At the least, and so kind of that dormancy up until 2022, 2023, when the governor kind of relaunched it, didn't help the tribal and rural communities, obviously. So we're really trying to get back into it and trying to kickstart a lot of that investment into our tribal communities and make sure they're benefiting from that resource that's there.
And what is some of your outreach strategies? How are how's the government? How are your offices working together? We had, like you had mentioned, we had Jason on the show last week, and he talked about the structure as well with the governor's office. So talk a little bit about your role and how. Are you a one-man shop, or tell us a little bit about your role?
Yeah, no. Well, my role specifically with the agency is like connecting a lot of our tribal entities with the programming we have here at the agency. I work very closely across the aisle with a lot of other different agencies who are also in the economic development vein. Like there's our Commerce Authority, Register of Contractors is in there as well, Department of Gaming.
Yeah.
We all come together to really talk about, economic development within Arizona. What are some of the initiatives we're all doing? And we actually, this past, I think October 1st, is we all submitted our tribal consultation report. So it highlights, every agency's engagement and consultation with the tribes and, all of our engagement there, which is really cool. And I'm happy to share that with you guys because we've done a lot of fantastic work over the last year of just connecting with the tribes, listening to what their needs are, and kind of figuring out how, OEO fits into this space, and how specifically the agency can be a great partner with the tribal communities to advance a lot of their needs and a lot of their priorities.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of the work that I've been trying to do and kind of been trying to push into our tribal relations is, we really would love to partner because at this time in this environment, there's a lot of things that are changing on the federal level, a lot of things that are changing throughout the country. And, if federal funding or if, federal resources are going to dwindle and dry up, we really want to make sure that the state's stepping in where it can to be that partner to either backfill or just create more opportunity.
That's that's such a great point because us as an organization, as a nonprofit, we've lost some federal funding this year, a significant amount actually. Probably 4 out of our 5 federal programs have. We haven't gotten notice yet,
One of them.
but we definitely
We heard
haven't.
that it was dismantled.
Yes, we heard the
That's not a
office
good-
is gone, and we haven't gotten any money, so we're making the assumption that we are not a future recipient of that money. But
the money's there
the
somewhere.
money's somewhere.
So
it's being shifted
like
somewhere. But we know that the
renamed.
federal government, are pulling back on certain projects, and it's great to hear that the state is picking up some of that. Specifically with the tribes, what are some of the projects that you would want to focus on? Let's say over the next few years.
I guess it depends on the budget. Like,
Well, I
where are
guess
these
so.
line
That's-
items at?
Look at
Like,
you
what are the
throwing it.
priorities? in those.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's a really great question, and that's something I think a lot of what we're doing at the agency is we're kind of trying to make sure we're on the same page with tribes when it comes to what we can say as the state we'd love to help here, and that's great, but it comes from where can we help, what can we do, where can we partner, where can we be a great resource for our tribal communities, and kind of in that same
And partner too.
and partner, and partner as well. And that kind of comes in the same spirit. We're hosting, or not, we're the governor's office and the governor's office on tribal relations and the resiliency office. They're hosting on October 14th and 15th the Tribal Energy and Economic Future Summit.
Tribal Energy Economic Future Summit.
Yeah, or
Great.
TEEFS for short is what
Oh,
I've just been
TEEFS.
calling it. It's a long name, but no, it's going to be
Another
a really,
acronym.
Another acronym.
another
I've
acronym
already
for you.
forgotten.
Remember it.
I know it starts
something.
with tribal.
T.
Yes. TEEFS.
So it's going to be a really great event. Just for our economic development agencies are all going to be there, and they're going to be presenting on the resources that they have available for tribes specifically. So the whole point is to bring together these economic development agencies like Gaming, Commerce Authority, Office of Tourism, Economic Opportunity, bringing them together in the same event with our tribal leaders and our tribal utility entities and economic development divisions to really hammer in on, there is a lot shifting in the country and there's a lot shifting, in the mood of the country and everything. We need to make sure, and we really would love to make sure that the state is partnering as much as it can and that we are promoting our resources specifically to the tribal nations. Because right now we do need to be that partner, and we do need to make sure that we are supporting the tribal communities wherever we can.
Is it a lot for infrastructure? Is that what the hope is, that the tribes will identify where the monies can best be used? Is it to support some of the infrastructure and programs that they may already have?
I think it kind of goes both ways. There's kind of the opportunity to have that going in two different directions of like, we can help you, and then, the projects that are kind of already going on, how can we help, continue that project? How can we help, add on to it or be a partner with that? One of the things that OEO is doing, we're holding our first tribal consultation on October 15th at the event itself, where we're going to be talking specifically about how can our Greater Arizona Development Authority align itself with the priorities of the tribal nations, and where are our tribal nations, pointing to us that this is a tribal infrastructure need. These are a big priority for a lot of tribal nations, and this is something that could really help out. So that's something we're pursuing as well, is engaging that conversation in a formal manner, a formal setting as well, with that kind of leader-to-leader dialogue. Our agency leadership will be there as well. So it kind of lends itself to a lot of opportunity there, and partnering with the two governments.
Well, that's true consultation with decision makers. So I commend you guys for putting that together, to have your decision makers there, because the tribes, when they come and they're, they want folks to be able to make some decisions, not necessarily right on the spot, but a lot of times, true consultation is government to government.
Yes.
So having that, a tribal chair or a tribal chair representative speaking, and making sure that your decision makers there to listen, I commend that approach. And boy, I worked in the federal government back in the day, and I think, gosh, I don't, at the SBA we did probably, 5 to 8 consultations in one year, and it's been something that through most administrations over the past 20 years I've seen, or 16 years, I've seen a lot of good consultation come out of that, which prior it did not occur.
What I always wanted, but this is a little bit off, but interrelated, is having HUD involved, because obviously housing is an issue in Native communities. And so you have some funds available through, whether the tribe is doing well through their own economic development ventures, whether it's gaming or hospitality, where they can build certain homes, and then families can purchase their home, have their own loan through the 184 program or whatever. And then you have those that maybe are still learning their skill, or single mom raising a couple kids and she's not at that income level yet, where then there's the HUD program, Housing Urban Development Program, but their homes were built differently. And the tribe sometimes followed suit with what HUD was doing, but they're not necessarily as energy efficient as when you go into, I'm going to go look at Shea Homes or Beezer Homes or whatever.
Cutter,
and they're usually made out of brick, which is not great in the desert, because it takes so long for that house to cool down. And then even the attic insulation. So you have different types of energy efficient models that are being built that are ready to go, whether it's the walls and the insulation, to the attic, to the foaming, to just everything, that they can do so much better, as well as the interior, the design of the home, so that this is my house. And
what project did you go down? You went and you toured a community a few years ago, and they were doing some innovative.
We toured Fort Mojave. They were building a lot of different housing and
energy efficient and
efficient starter homes for young families, elderly living, that type of thing, duplexes, and they were very energy efficient homes that they were looking into because of the sustainability and solar energy and things of that nature. Water, because when you live in a community, maybe they're short that month, they go to the community center like, hey, I need some assistance here. So everything the community can do to reduce the electric bill in Arizona in the summertime, could go upwards $400 or $500 a month, especially if it's not an energy efficient built home. Then right there, if you look at one family and what they're paying, and you build a more energy efficient home and you reduce that cost in half, sometimes even more, then the tribe itself is also saving, because they can do the same thing with their infrastructure and their other buildings, whether it's their diabetes center or community center, school. They should all be looking at, and I know they do. I know they are doing that, but we just need to do more of it, because prices are always going up. So when you bring out your magic wand to fix everything, we really would appreciate that. It's a lot.
Sounds like you've started.
It's a lot of issues.
It's great. Yeah.
I think the there's a lot of need to really help and really see where we can be a partner. And one of the other programs we have, it's a microbusiness loan program.
Oh, great.
So we got $5 million from the legislature to then give out to community development financial institutions, so CDFIs.
Oh, good.
Well, we have a CDFI.
Nice.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys know all about CDFIs and
do.
kind of how they're able to do like character-based lending. They're able to do non-traditional kind of lending that really helps small businesses, and in this case, micro businesses, so that's 5 or fewer employees, gain access to that kind of capital. And I think those programs are going to be incredibly beneficial to our tribal communities. That's something we're also going to be talking about during that summit. Just as like the mood changes in this next few years, under this next or during this federal administration is kind of, there's a lot changing. So we need to really prop up a lot of these programs that have the benefit of, creating a lot of economic incentive for our micro businesses here in Arizona. And, it helps, mom and pop shops or small shops kind of buy more equipment, hire more employees, or, expand if they need to, all that kind of stuff. So those kind of programming, they're all really beneficial for our tribal communities, and it's something we really want to.
I mean, entrepreneurship, we talked about workforce in general, but entrepreneurship is another key to another avenue of all the populations that we mentioned about maybe people are, don't want to go right into a traditional institution or don't want to go to a community college, but hey, they have a great idea and they have some great skills and they can start a business, right away. And, I think it's having a little bit of capital, like which looks like you guys are providing, having that support network and training. Is that something that some of your offices provide as well?
Yeah, so attached with the microbusiness program, and this is actually a statute, so the legislature put this into the functioning of the program, is each CDFI or I guess our loan partners, so the people or the groups that we've partnered up with to deliver on these loans, they're required to provide some kind of like financial literacy, education, business education, so that our businesses that are going through this program with, Native Community Capital is one of our lending partners. A micro business, tribally owned micro business that goes through Native Community Capital to get micro business loan funds will then be required to do this financial training that is provided by the CDFI. And that kind of just helps our, community, our business partners, build a successful business, be able to afford or be able to have access to even bigger loans down the road, really expand their business and create a successful business out of that. So there's a lot of education that goes into it too, and I think that's a really big key part of it.
Yeah, and at a lower interest rate.
And a lower interest
right?
rate, yes.
And are they variable or fixed rate loan type? Do you know?
I'd have to go back and look. I think that, But.
Well, I guess what your office or that office does, does it grant the money to the CDFIs or is it a loan to the CDFIs?
I'd have to look back.
I
believe it's a grant down to the CDFIs.
So each CDFI probably comes up with their own rules. And did we define what a CDFI is? Because a lot of times I love the
Development
community
Institution Fund.
Community Development Financial Institution.
Financial. Okay. Yeah. There we go with the
Sometimes I say
acronyms
finance and it's too many acronyms.
We know CDFI.
I know CDFI very well. Yes. But yes, Community Development Financial Institutions. Wonderful. Yeah. So that sounds like a great program, but I would say that each CDFI comes up with their own rules and regulations on how they
do, and you have to have some credit. I mean, you have to have some
not everybody
credit
has
worthiness.
Depends.
And how are you going to pay back the loan?
Right. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. How are you going to pay back your loan? This is fascinating. You're doing some great work. Tell us a little bit about what is next. You have a newer office. You're doing consultation. Yeah. It sounds like you're partnering with a lot of the other state entities. You're coming up with good plans. What do you envision over the next 2 years for your office, and what are some of your plans in the office to help support workforce development in our tribal communities?
Yeah, of course. I think one of the biggest things and something we've really wanted to do for the last year or so is get tribal representation on the state board. Right now, there is a Arizona Tribal Workforce Development Board, and it's made up of 19 tribal nations here in Arizona. And they operate as one of the local boards under the workforce board. So if you don't understand that structure, there's like a big overarching state workforce board, and they kind of set policy and whatnot for the 12 local boards that are scattered all over the country, or all over the state. And one of those local boards is the Tribal Workforce Board. So there is participation in the sense that there's a tribal local workforce board, and they're participating, and they're, you know, kind of having that voice of the tribal nations. And that's really great. And the work that we do together and that they do is really great. But having a tribal representation on the state board is something that the agency really wants to do, because it elevates that tribal entity, the tribal voice, the tribal perspective, up to an entire, you know, state level. And that's where it really matters, and that's where they can make a lot of impact, and they can really have a lot of that decision making too, and kind of have that voice at the state level. So that's one of the things that we really want to pursue, and we really want to make sure happens in the next year, especially as we get in contact with more tribes, we start building those relationships, and we start, you know, figuring out, you know, what is a good way to go about this, and how can we get that goal met in the next year.
And that would be an appointment from the governor or something like that, or how would that work?
Yeah, with appointment to the state board, I do believe it's like a nominee, and then you kind of submit that to the governor. So there's a few steps in between there, but it's also a goal that the governor's office is supporting and is really wanting to make sure that also happens as well.
Great.
Is there a lot of data and statistics that's involved with this? Like, you know, when I worked in early education, of course, then it's like mom wants to gain a new skill, but she has 2 young ones at home. Then the early education piece comes into play. And then the community overall, there's the birth rate of, you know, the population and X amount per month, per year. How does that all come into play when it looking at it as far as the workforce development initiative?
Yeah, of course. I think it's incredibly important. You know, you got to know, you know, is your birth rate declining? You know, how many people are moving into the state? You know, who's moving into the state even? You know, are these people that are taking up jobs? Are these retirees? We have, in the Office of Economic Opportunity, we have 2 different offices. We have, or a couple different additional offices. The Labor Market Information Director, or our Chief Economist, he does a lot of data projections for employment, job growth, that kind of stuff, and it's all published to our website. So we're a really big data house when it comes to employment numbers and workforce data like that. And we also house the state workforce. We also house the state demographer's office. So our state demographer, Dr. Chang, he does a lot of the projections for the state on, you know, birth and, you know, people moving here, moving out, and kind of that population estimates for the state. So we kind of use a lot of this data to inform the Workforce Council. We use it to inform ourselves. We're kind of building policy and kind of, you know, doing a lot of the workforce initiatives, planning and programming. So the data is an incredible piece of it, and it's incredibly important. It's something that OEO really tries to support the state with. So.
Even the attraction when a big company wants to move, let's say, to Phoenix versus Silicon Valley, they want to know those things. They want to know what's going on in these communities in Arizona. Where do I send my kids to school? Where do I go to church if they go to church? And what type of, you know, background that they, you know, do off time when they're not working. You know, what's there to do.
Yeah, that's an incredible piece, and it's something that the agency kind of supports. We publish we have a report called the Economic Conditions Report, and it breaks a lot of categories of like educational attainment, job growth, wage attainment, that kind of stuff, by legislative district as well. So we have that broken out into all of Arizona's 30 legislative districts, and it breaks it down to its bare components of like how is this district doing compared to the rest of Arizona, to the rest of the country. And that's a really big tool that a lot of legislators have used and a lot of legislators have taken interest in. And it just kind of shows a lot of, how important data is, and, how the level of data that we can get down to and produce and, support the state of Arizona with. So it's an incredible piece of the workforce, workforce conversation.
Sebastian, some amazing knowledge. You're doing some great work. Great to hear all of what you're doing. The National Center would love to be part of any support that you guys have. We have a fairly extensive network here in Arizona, but also nationwide. last question. Should be an easy one, but sometimes it could be hard. I always wonder about work-life balance.
Well, real quick though, I'm just going to interrupt because
this is
because we,
she's ready.
not only do we have our Native Edge Institutes where we provide the business counseling, technical assistance, and the training that we do during the day, and then afterward we follow up with those individuals to have the one-on-one. What else do they need? We also did a career fair at Fort Mojave,
right.
and as a result of that career fair, we did have 7 hires that day. We also included like 23 small businesses. State of Arizona workforce was involved in that one, that came to the career fair that day and set up tables. So part of the Native Edge Institute brand can incorporate the workforce development, career fairs, and the soft skills. So we do have a number of staff that can train also and have speakers come in, much like we do with the technical assistance and training for business development. We can also provide that for the workforce development piece. So tribes out there, especially in Arizona, because our home office is here in Mesa, Arizona, that we can reach out to the 22 tribes, even if they're not a part of the, and you said 19 that are participant, to, reach out to us to assist with that, with those soft skills, because I always was upset when we would do a career fair at Maricopa County and we would do our training days later, or we'd have our training. And it's really important to have the training before you have the career fair, so mom doesn't come in with the child and they're wearing their slippers or whatever. It's like you want to impress to that new employer, like, hey, I'm workforce ready to go. And so it's really important with the soft skills prior. And that can go on and on at different levels, especially with the other internships and the apprenticeship programs.
So you can see we want to partner with you guys.
Yeah, of course, we'd love to.
We would be happy to support, and Yvette has a great career working in workforce development. So happy to continue the conversation on how we can partner with your office and bring some of the training and technical assistance that we can provide. We'd love to continue that.
Is there still the Department of Labor? Are they in a play in this on the federal level with the state of Arizona for some of that, the grant money?
Yeah, of course. At the federal level, the state of Arizona gets, WIOA funding, and that trickles down to the state in a lot of different ways. So, we still have a really great partnership with Department of Labor. We do a lot of our apprenticeship programming with the Department of Labor and using a lot of their standards and definitions and whatnot. So, I think the relationship is still there, and it's definitely something that's
really important. The WIOA, Workforce Investment Opportunity Act. So again, we're a nonprofit. So we want to partner with any tribes or even the state at that level, and we can come in and join.
So now, last question.
Yes, sorry. Yeah. It's just like all excited.
She gets excited.
It's like, well,
that's
you're
important. You
juggling a lot of plates.
He is so juggling. This is the question, though. I get to ask the question about juggling the plates. The last question that we usually always ask our guests is more of a personal question of like, how do you balance? Because here you are. You're in an office. You're the single liaison. You're trying to work with that. You're trying to network. You're also in school still. So what are some of the things that you do to keep yourself balanced that you can give advice to our listeners on? This is how I keep everything in line and
stay sane
and not burn out.
I'd say get a few puppies that take up a lot of your time.
We've not heard that.
We have rabbits.
I like puppies.
Yeah, puppies are awesome.
I think it's. There's a couple of things that kind of make this job really great for me. I really enjoy public service. Kind of going into. I've kind of done a lot of public service work. Doing internships with the state. I worked for a couple of city chambers. Kind of doing a lot of public service work has been something that's always made me passionate about the job that I'm doing. So that kind of already makes, a lot of, juggling different roles, a little bit more fun of like, I get to make a benefit at the end of the day in some way. And then also just, making sure you have those hobbies outside of your job and, finding the people you like being with. I love spending time with my wife and going to the park with the dogs and whatnot. So just having, a really great outside of work life to balance out some of the harder parts of the workday are really great.
Well, that sounds great. Well, we really appreciate, Sebastian, all your knowledge that you've given us. You can get more information on your website.
Yeah, we have oeo.az.gov. That's our state website, and we have a tribal consultation page on there. You can find all my information. Our consultation reports are up there as well with a lot of different documents. So there's a lot of really great information on there.
And
Yeah,
then
good job.
the event is October 13th and 14th. Is that correct?
14th and 15th.
14th and
yes,
15th.
yeah.
October 14th and 15th here in Arizona.
Yeah, so that'll be the Great Wolf Lodge up in Scottsdale. So
Okay.
14th and 15th, and
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and then there's Indigenous Peoples Day coming up on the 13th.
yes.
yes.
So
You
that's
can
a
stop
whole,
at the Western Spirit Museum
There
where
you
the
go.
Duncan family is
Oh,
performing starting
look at
at
that.
3 o'clock, and then a
make a
reception
week of it,
5 to 6, and then hit the Great Wolf Lodge
Yes.
down the street.
which is tribally owned
14th
property.
and 15th, Salt River, Pima, Maricopa.
Yeah, they own
Indian
that.
community. Yep.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Native Edge podcast, Yvette. Great questions today.
Yeah.
You are, workforce is in your blood. We need a whole new.
did it for a minute,
You did
yeah.
it for a minute.
Well, we've done it.
This is a great conversation. I just like
worked.
sit back and listen to the experts. I like that.
Yeah,
I
no,
just,
you're doing a lot of great work.
yeah,
So
it's
thank you
great
for
work.
that.
thank you guys for having me.
The National Center for American Indian Enterprise Development is a 501c3 nonprofit. We have new mugs. Check this out.
Ooh,
Do you see
I
our
like
mugs?
that.
Yeah, you like that? So
That's
if folks want a National Center mug, no one's heard this before. You make a donation to the Native
Nice.
Edge podcast, and we will send you a mug. And that donation needs to be, $25 or more.
Well, and we're 501c3.
We are
so you do
501c3,
get
so
a
it's tax deductible.
deductible.
Yes, so get a mug, and you can have coffee with Chris.
Nice. Well,
And
you know,
listen
I
to your
just
Native Edge.
bought a mug. Mine was green
Yeah.
from Bar Harbor.
You could have
I,
donated
now I
to the
know
Native
that
Edge
I
podcast
can get
and
one
gotten
that
a
looks,
National
but
Center.
I like the blue.
The Blue National Center, and we were also giving these out at NAFOA, Native American Financial Officers Association. So NAFOA. See, I did
Nice.
that acronym.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to all of our watchers, listeners. You can find us on all the social media platforms. Please keep us in mind when you're thinking of donating to organizations or supporting organizations financially, because we definitely 80% of everything that we bring in at the National Center goes right into our programs and into our clients. Some very high numbers there. We are a platinum nonprofit organization, and I really appreciate all of your support, listeners, watchers, and friends for the
Yes.
Native Edge. Until next time on the Native Edge.